Hi everybody, my name is Jim and welcome back to a new episode of Make Do Mondays. So if you guys remember at the very end of my June tour, if you made it that far, I did mention that I was going to be doing a Make Do Monday that was a little bit unconventional, meaning that I wasn't going to be using items and doing things that I've researched in my pamphlets and manuals for the Make Do and Mend, Victory Gardening, World War II, etc., etc. This is going to be more of a DIY, but if you think about it, I really feel like DIY is like the modern way of saying make, do, and mend. So it's still very, very appropriate. And it just so happens that this project is going to be happening for something in the garden. Okay, right now I'm like 2,000% in my garden right now. There's going to be other make do's coming up that are going to be going, back to those olden times. However, this is just the right time to get this completed. So the project for today is I'm going to be making a DIY or make, do, and mend soaker hose for the polytunnel. I don't have the sink plumbed in yet. I don't have a watering system set up. I basically have to drag the hose into the polytunnel to give it a good drink. And that can be a bit of a hassle. Also, I'm not necessarily constantly going to be around to do the watering. I am going to be taking trips. This is summer vacation. I do want to go out and travel and things like that as I usually do. So this will also be a foolproof way for me to take care of that polytunnel while I'm away. So it just so happens that just driving around, I happened to come across someone's trash, and they had thrown out tons and tons of garden hoses. I mean, a lot. And, when someone usually gets some kind of a leak or a break in their hose line, I think for the most part, people are just like, oh, nothing I can do. I'll just put it at the curb and get a new one. Hoses are expensive. They really, really are, especially if you want to get a nice, sturdy, long one that's going to last you for a while. Expensive. So I was thrilled to bits when I saw these laying on somebody's curb. And so, of course, I quickly ran out, opened up the back of my Clubman, threw everything in the back, and started going through in my mind what I was going to do. So the soaker hose is what it's going to be. I'm going to show you an easy and effective way to create one for pennies on the dollar. So let's go out. I want to show you exactly the haul that I got from somebody's curb. I can't believe people throw this stuff away. It's all right. It's good for me. And it's good for you viewers out there, who may see the same thing sitting at somebody's curb. All right, let's go take a look. That's a whole lot of hose. Okay. It's absolutely nuts. Now, some of them, as you can see, have no end on them. Okay. Some of them have kind of non-usable ends unless you have some kind of a hookup system that works with this. There was one here, a short length, that's completely fine. Of course, I haven't attached it to a water supply yet, so I'm not sure if it's dry rotted. It feels pretty good. And then this mamacita has to be a 50-foot length. And you can see, I think they made the attempt with some Gorilla Tape to try to repair this, but as my father always says, water will always find its way, and that's the truth. So this is all perfectly good hose. And so I'm going to show you with a certain amount of this hose what I'm going to do. So I think I'm going to take this into the shed with me. and show you exactly what I'm going to be doing. So depending on the hose, okay, if you get one that's been cut like this, what's really important first and foremost to figure out is which end of the hose is which. Now, this particular hose already had a functional male end, okay, of the hose. Male meaning that this is the part that you screw onto kind of the spigot, okay? And you can see it's very wide at the end here, okay? And it has a washer on the inside, and you can see the threads on the inside, okay? So this hose already has one of the male ends on this hose, so it's totally fine. I don't need this. However, the part that has been cut off is the female end, okay? And the female end looks like this. You can see the threads of the screw visibly, okay? There is no gasket in here whatsoever. Now, I picked these up at a local big box store for next to nothing, a couple bucks a piece, okay? And what you'll usually get is the female end and one of these clamps, okay? Really, really important. Most garden hoses are typically 3/4 of an inch in diameter, okay? Some of them can be 1/2 inch, so know which size you are dealing with before you go out and purchase these, because if you have the wrong size, well, I mean, you could always throw these in a drawer for a rainy day, but that's kind of important. And these are super easy to put on, okay? All you need to do, and you can see how this kind of is fatter on this end than it is down here, all right? And then in the middle here, there's a bit of a recess, and that's basically where you want that band to go. You take it, shove it in, okay? So it looks like this. Now, I gotta take it back out because make sure that you put the clamp over it first. Otherwise, it won't stay in place. All right, let's try that again. Okay, now it's in. And then you just take your screwdriver and you tighten the clamp. Okay. You want it to be as tight as possible so that none of that water can get out. Okay, that's not moving anywhere. All right, the female end of the hose has to be the end of the drip line, unless of course you plan on connecting it to another hose. I'm not going to do that. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to make the water stop at the end of this hose. All right, so then you get yourself one of these. All right, this is a hose cap. All right, and they were really, really cheap. They're cheaper than the actual repair ends. I got it in a 2-packet. I bought a couple. Okay, super, super cheap. You want to cap the end, the female end of that hose, okay, nice and tight. You do not want water to come out of this unless, of course, like I said, you're going to continue the drip line, okay, but I don't. All right, so I'm going to make sure that's nice and tight. All right, this is going to go really quick. Now, what I have here is my cordless drill, and on my cordless drill, I have a 1/16 size drill bit. It's tiny, okay? The smaller the hole, the better. You do not want to have an absolutely huge hole, okay? Huge holes going along this line, because then the water is not going to be able to pressurize the hose properly, and you're not going to get an even drip, okay? So I'm going to make sure that this is nice and tight, and I'm going to pull it out as far as it will go. All right. Now, all I want to do is drill holes in this hose, okay? Now, I'm making sure the drill bit is long enough so that I can drill directly through the hose on both sides. So that way, I've got 2 even spouts on either side, okay? Super easy. Let me show you how it's done. Oh, hold on a minute. Okay, let's see how this goes. All right, let me know if it comes out on the other side. It certainly did. Fabulous. All right, I'm going to do this the length of the hose, the whole length of the hose. I'm probably going to leave maybe a good foot, foot and a half over on the other end of the hose, just to make sure that I have a decent run space, that I'm not going to be, you know, watering my pallet pathway, so to speak. But I'm going to get on with this. It's going to take me a little bit of time because this hose is kind of long. So I'll show you when it's done. All right, all of my holes have been, you know, drilled into the hose. There's one last piece of the puzzle, and it just so happened that I had this lying around from a project that I had done years and years and years ago, but landscaping pins, okay? I've got a nice collection of these. You're gonna need these to keep the hose down in its place, okay, so that it doesn't move. You also want to try your hardest to keep the holes, okay, all even. Otherwise, you know, it might turn into a water park in here. So I'm going to arrange the hose along this bed here. This is my orphanage, okay? I'll show you how I'm going to do that using the pegs. And then, well, we'll just have to connect it to the water supply and see how it goes. Fingers crossed. We're doing this together, guys. Okay, so you can see how in the front I kind of did a wavy pattern, and then the back I did a straight shot. I just wanted to make sure that I got the edge and then most of the middle taken care of. Those are the parts that seem to get the driest the fastest. But one thing I forgot to mention is that the holes that I drilled, I followed this blue line, okay, that was on the hose. Now, you may not be lucky enough to have that. If that's the case, I probably wouldn't be doing 2 holes. I would probably just do 1 hole and then try to position the hose down with the holes on the bottom, and it would treat it as a drip line instead. But because I had this guide and I knew that the guide, you know, runs along the same edge of the hose, it was easier for me to go through the middle of these 2 little lines and onto the other side. Over here is where I have the end that I connect to the water supply. And the reason why I did it here is because, and I actually left quite a bit of hose here, because I don't have to worry about this because that's self-watering, but what I might do is I may run the hose up and around my door, okay, and then connect a second one down this side of the tunnel. As you can see, my lima beans are coming up. Yay. So I want these to have a little bit more growth on them before I put this drip line down. But all my lettuce is beginning to take off. There is some spinach that's beginning to pop up. I want to make sure that these hoses are in place. All right, so let's connect it to the water supply and see what happens. Okay, so I just connected the hose, and if you notice here, I've got kind of a turn off valve, okay? The reason why I'm doing that is because I don't want too much water pressure to go into the hose. Like I said, too much water pressure will likely make the water sprout out. Okay, kind of like you're in a supermarket produce section and they decide they're going to mist all the vegetables to make them look fresh and delicious. The same thing could very well happen here, which I don't want to happen. So by just turning the water on, Okay, we're looking at this in real time. Very, very carefully. And you can hear the hose starting to pressurize. Can you hear the air? Come on. All right, I'm noticing the water. Oh, there it goes. Okay, this is probably entirely too much, so I'm gonna lower this ever so slightly. All right, let me show you what it looks like up close. Yay! Look at all that. And now it's gently watering my beds. Oh, look at that one. A little fountain back here. Yeah, so the key is really making sure that the pressure is low enough so that it doesn't go absolutely nuts. I might even turn this down a little bit more just to give it more of a soaker, not a soaker, a drip line feel, okay? We just want this to be evenly moist. We don't want it to flood, okay? We also don't want the water to be shooting all over creation here. So I'm going to turn it down a little bit. Okay, and I notice like right here, you can't see the water coming out, but if I turn it, the hole's right here, and it is dripping, okay? So there we have it. Look at that. Oh, I'm not gonna have to worry about watering in here. So I'm gonna do the other side. Make sure that that also gets a decent amount of water. And I spent maybe, I don't know, $10 on the whole project from start to finish. I am thrilled to bits. Ha! I love it when things work out. It's always a crapshoot, you know? So, really, really happy about that. Just so you know, I did drill holes about every 6 inches, roughly. I didn't go through with the tape measure. I thought, I just kind of, took a look at it. I eyed it out and see, I wanted as many holes as possible as to get around to many of the plants, etc., to get the soil nice and moist. So what I'm going to do once the other side is all taken care of, and once I get an actual line going into the tunnel that's going to connect the sink, okay? And for that, by the way, I have another little treasure here. When I run the hose line to the sink, I'm also going to be using a hose splitter, okay? And these also have the turnoffs on them. So when I want to hook up, say, the sink portion, all right, I can leave this on full blast, okay? And then for the soaker hose or the drip line, I can maybe turn this about halfway so that the pressure isn't, too overwhelming. Along with that, I have, and I bought these a long time ago, these are digital water timers. Okay, I have 2 of them. You can buy mechanical ones. The mechanical ones are actually really, really cheap. I bought the digital ones so that I could set the schedule. It didn't have to be an everyday water schedule. Because there are years where, the summers are a lot wetter than others. So I wouldn't set this to a daily setting, if we're having a wet summer. That wouldn't make any sense. So with the digital ones, I was able to select maybe every other 2 days or 3 days for watering. But so yeah, I will hook this up to the splitter, and then I'll run my hose line out of here. And then I can keep it on and well watered, and I could probably set maybe for like a couple of hours if I need to, the drip line, which isn't going to be using a terrible lot of water. So That'll be handy. I can literally forget about watering back there, which is so wonderful. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful and interesting. And like I said, pennies on the dollar. All I basically had to pay for this, at least, I had a lot of stuff on hand. But for me, were these hose connectors. I pretty much had everything else. Now you could be really, really creative with the pins, the landscaping pins. If you've got like a large collection of wire hangers, you can cut those down and create your own pegs for that. I mean, there's lots of stuff that you can do to be super duper creative. It just so happens that I had everything on hand, so another Make Do Monday on the books. Yay! The next Make Do Monday that's going to be coming your way is going to be a food processing video. I'll leave it at that. Okay? I'm going to do some canning. When that will be, I don't know. You'll just have to wait and see, I guess. So I hope you're all well. I hope that your gardens are all getting very well hydrated. We had a gully washer of a storm. Good heavens. I think we got about 2 inches of rain. So I'm not thinking that I'm going to have to water my garden for at least a week. But if you saw my post on Facebook and Instagram, you saw how heavy it was. It was really, really heavy. But for the most part, all of the beds and even my lawn, all my yard just soaked the rain up because it's been so dry. So I hope you guys are having, a decent amount of rain where you are so you don't have to water as much. And what's better for your garden than rainwater? So if you are new to the channel, welcome. Please consider subscribing, hit the notification bell, thumbs up, and please leave your comments. I will see you all really, really soon. So long.